You got one life, for crying out loud. You might as well just give it all you got.
The Deej, Dan Jourdan.
Your daily dose of reality. Your daily dose of the Deej.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I make the news. I don't watch the news. I'm a leader.
The Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Listen, don't worry how to sell, baby. Worry about why people buy. And it's fun.
You don't need a 5-hour energy. All you need is the Sales Energizer.
Just when I think it's not going to be as fun as the one before, each one gets successfully better. What's the word I'm looking for? What's it going to take to get you into this car today, huh?
And now, please welcome the Sales Energizer, Dan Jourdan.
Boom! That's exactly it. Do that. Let's do that. Boom! Here we go,
Boom.
baby. It's 2022. I can't. I'm like, so, it's like normally I'm just excited to do a show because it's a new show with you. But here, like in a new year, new show, there's just a little bit extra. Just a little bit more. How was your?
You know what? I'm glad to be back for the attack, back with Dan Jourdan live. Yeah. I mean, listen, Dan, there's been a couple of Wednesdays where I need my daily dose of the Deej.
I know.
I need my weekly, I need my midweek pump me up, and I know you may not be at 100% today, Dan. Full disclosure for those that are watching on all the tubes, but like even 75%. Dan Jourdan, for any mortal man, is probably what, 125?
That's it.
What do you think?
It's not easy being Deej. That's what it is. It's not, but it's been it's a lifelong thing because my growing up, I never was the star athlete like our guest is going to be. I was never really that. I was never really the good looking guy. I was never all that. All I had was my energy, my voice. That's how I got my attention. That's how I worked it. So if I'm ever just kind of like normal, just say I'm normal and I'm not doing whatever, people always come, hey, what's wrong? Hey, what's wrong? What's going on? You okay? Is everything good? And so it's a tough act. And actually, I remember my children, once like 15 years ago, I was less than 100%. And my daughter was young and she had never seen me, not up. And she was like deathly concerned, is daddy going to die? I'm like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like one of those crazy things. But you know what? I found that energy will make up in sales, energy makes up for a lot of skill, for a lot, because people just kind of assume that if you have the energy and you bring it with enthusiasm, that you believe in your product enough to share it.
Absolutely, and it's going to get people's attention, but the key is once you get their attention with your energy, you got to make sure you bring it. You got to make sure that content hits. And so every time when you log into to LinkedIn and you see Garen Balani, who's with us from Desk Rig over on LinkedIn. Thanks again, Garen, for a fantastic interview the last time we were on Dan Jourdan Live. But when you fire up LinkedIn and you see a video with this guy with his arms in the air and he's talking about something as it relates to sales, you're always going to get some value out of that. You're always going to get a take. And you remember our good friend Daryl Prail from VanillaSoft when he was on with an interview. That's something he said about your videos. He's like, hey, anybody can fire it up and just go, hey, I'm the energy guy. But Dan, you've always got a take on something. You've always got something that's like, you know what? That's a nugget of something that I can use today and hopefully get some more prospects, some more customers, and, live a better life.
And that's it, because sales is a lifestyle and it's a whole thing. And so I bring that. And so I'm so glad when I have guests like the one we have coming up, because they actually have the professionalism that I lack so sorely. And I need it. And really, because listen, you can't give what you don't have. you know, and so you just got to go. You got to get it first, and then you can give. So here we got it today. So I'm pumped. This is my first New Year show. So pleased to have a man who's one of my two favorite names, Nigel Green. Come on down.
Boom. How you doing?
Yes.
And he was predictably ready for it with the arms in the air. How long were you standing there with the arms in the air before I brought you on?
7 minutes. I'm just kidding. No.
You feel better though, don't you? Even,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
it's
great.
almost like doing some shoulder presses, you know?
Yeah.
Now, so with here's something you may or may not know. My two favorite English names. By the way, where are you? Where are you located?
So I live on a farm in Kentucky, about an hour north of Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh my God! I live on a farm in Kentucky.
So Bowling Green.
West. So think like Fort Campbell, Hopkinsville, Kentucky area.
Yeah, right on.
How do you get a name like Nigel in Kentucky?
Well, it goes back before that, Deej. I was born in Alabama, and I'm used to this. The story of my professional career is disappointing anyone that's going to interview me. When I was a seller, when I would show up for appointments, they always expect, oh, Nigel's coming. He's going to definitely have some South African or British accent. No, it's just a redneck from Alabama. How I got the name, my dad was really into music, and so Elton John had a drummer named Nigel. And that's it. So I'm named after Elton John's drummer. Why I don't know, but that's it.
Well, so what's your favorite Elton John song?
I don't know that I have one.
Oh, you see, you're not
maybe
prepped.
Rocket
You need
Man.
one,
Okay,
Nigel.
Rocket Man. All right,
Rocket-
There we go.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rocket Man.
softball.
Actually, Rocket Man, my favorite screwed up line that nobody could say. Rocket Man, burning like a tuna in the lawn. I never knew what it was. I always said burning like a tuna in the lawn. What are the actual words to that part, Chris Stone?
I don't know. I'm not a lyric guy. I'm not a lyric guy, but that's fantastic that he named you after the drummer for Elton. That is very, it's just a massive music fan or a massive Elton John fan?
Music.
Awesome.
I remember growing up. I mean, my first memory of music was probably 4 or 5 years old, listening to Dire Straits. I mean, just pumping it through the house.
So what instrument do you play?
None.
Plays the radio.
Nigel, you are absolutely right. You are a total disappointment.
I know.
Things can only get better from here.
But that's really important, and actually it shows what a good salesperson you are, because that's what we do. We kind of use all that stuff that we know we're going to have with your name or what have you as a conversation starter, as something to move the ball forward. And now in your career, you do it more as a sales manager. You help sales managers find those skills and train those skills for others.
Yeah, so I right out of college jumped right into sales, and I was never a what I would call a just quota buster. I would always come in somewhere around 85 to 100% the plan, but I worked with folks that would do 200, 300% the plan, and they would just grind it out. And I never had that extra it factor to be able to perform at that level. But one of the things I realized about myself is that I was always willing to help those top performers to get a little bit more organized, think about structure, help them navigate the nuances of a deal. I mean, they were going to run through a wall with activity and getting deals done, but they always left a wake of destruction behind them. And I was just really good at helping them develop systems. And I said, man, I'm kind of like a coach. And I think that came from playing sports and being involved with coaches my whole life. I just, through osmosis and being around coaches, learned coach speak. I learned how to, instead of make a statement, ask a question. And so very early in my career, I was identified as someone that might actually be a good manager. So I had my first sales management opportunity 3 years after being a seller. And then by the age of 31, I was leading a sales team for a Fortune 300 healthcare company. And I said, you know what, the reality is in today's, publicly traded world, to be on a management team and to play at this level, it's really has to be your life. And I just had a newborn son. and I was wanting to build a family, and I knew that the writing on the wall was that what I was working on, building an enterprise, was working on me, changing my values and the way I wanted to do work in a way that was really going to be unfixable if I didn't just fix it right now, if I didn't hit eject. So in 2018, I walked away from Nashville, which has a big healthcare scene, and I said, I just want to help other sales leaders that are still in this race, that still want to run and do planes, trains, and automobiles, help them figure it out, do what I was doing for the top performers, take the best-in-class sales leaders and help them build best-in-class sales teams. And that's what I do now with my work.
That's now the son. How many kids do you have now?
2 now. My son Foster is 6, and my daughter Maddie is 4.
Oh, okay. Foster and Maddie. I was hoping for a Basil or something like that. But
yeah, I've learned my lesson about be careful what you name your kids.
Yeah, right.
Well, so that's excellent. So you're working with managers now. So you help managers be better managers. So who hires you?
Typically, it's the company? The CEO that hires me.
Okay.
Or a lot of the companies I work with are in the mid market, so they're anywhere between 10 and 100 million in revenue. They have an ideal customer. They have historical receivables and product market fit. They're doing things well, but in order to grow to that next phase of life cycle and predictability and value creation in the business, they need that sales leader to create structure and scale in a way that they haven't done before. So sometimes it's the capital partner, whether it's the investors, the equity fund, the founder. They bring me in to come alongside a sales leader. The thing that's true about all of my clients is they already have a sales team in place. They have a VP, they have frontline sales managers, they have national accounts, they have all the complexities of a big machine. Somewhere along the line, as they were scaling, the sales strategy got a little bit off course with the business strategy. And I come alongside and I help that sales leader think more like the CEO, to help them see the business through the same lens that their investors and their management team is seeing the business.
All right. Well, so now I'm interested in this. So because you keep saying sales leader instead of sales manager or role. So who's the role when you say you're dealing with the sales leader? What is that? Is that the VP of sales or someone who's managing a team like you used to do?
It's the VP of sales.
Okay, so it's the VP of sales, and the VP of sales. So their customers or their employees are those various managers throughout the corporation.
Correct. And then sometimes there's like it's becoming more common now that you have these strategic account reps in the B2B space, or you got some specialty reps that are kind of outside. Maybe they have an inside sales team or customer success team. But yes, you're right. Their customers are all these function heads, whether it be frontline managers, department heads, or sales ops, that they have to bring energy to that conversation.
Yes. And so I'm very interested in the role of today's manager, because I think it's different than it was in the past, where they need to be, in my opinion, more of a coach than just following the numbers, because with all everybody has the same dashboard. I mean, the VP in 5 minutes can see everybody's numbers. What do you assist do you think that of the role of the manager with their people is more involved now or should be?
I think that it's a role that has always been involved, but to your point, what that involvement looks like today is very different than what it has been in the future. And it's not all just because we live in a COVID remote world where everyone's fully distributed. It's really that, to your point, technology has made all of the data collection, all of the metric aggregating, all the reporting function. You can spend $100 a month and get all the tools you need. So I don't need a person to go tell me what happened last week.
Exactly.
What I need is a individual that cares about the development of the people, cares about how they're maturing and how their career path is aligning with the opportunities that we have in this organization, and who knows how to add value to the reps. Because I just read yesterday, 4.5 million people quit their job in November. All right. So that says, and I had an old coach tell me, you can either live with it, leave it, or fix it. Okay. Well, it's pretty clear that a lot of sellers are just leaving it. They're saying, you know what, I don't have to live with this anymore. So I need people on the front line sales management that are willing to help fix it. And fix it means telling the sales leader when some of the expectations from the management team are unrealistic, or when some of the expectations or some of the quote new features aren't really what the customer is asking for. I need folks now in the sales management role that are willing to fix it, not just leave it.
Yeah,
Well,
Nigel, I've got something you mentioned early on when you talked about leaving Nashville, and you talked about your family being a real key component in that. And I have a similar story and I won't get into it for myself personally. But speaking about what you just talked about, how many people are leaving or have left over the past year because of that very reason, where it's like, I'm in this job, right? And I'm working for a sales manager that I don't feel like following him up a hill, her up a hill. And I don't need this. I have a family. That's what's most important to me. How do you weave that into what you're doing and how you're working with these companies and training these people that may think like that and similar to what you felt when you left Nashville and started on your own?
It's a great question. And I think it starts by recognizing that the talent market, i.e. the folks that are looking for jobs, value different things. Okay. And so for some of those individuals, it was magnified or exacerbated by this whole COVID experience of, I need work-life balance. My priorities have shifted. So you have to hire different people. And so the profile of a successful seller, I think it's fundamentally changed. It probably looks more like an entrepreneur or a freelancer than it does someone that is looking for structure, accountability. You almost need to build the job of the seller around here is all the tools we're going to give you to run your own business within this platform. And so you have to hire people today that know how to work for themselves. And so one of the things I find myself coaching managers now is this one sentence. You got to tell your reps, if you're at plan, you work for you, which means I'm not going to tell you how many calls you need to make. I'm not going to tell you when you need to work. You work for you. Now, when you fall short, that's when you work for me. And I think what I'm seeing is the managers that really can foster this environment of intrapreneurship, which is you be the business, you be the CEO of your responsibilities, your territory, or your quota. I'm going to give you all the tools. I'm going to help remove barriers inside the organization. Those that do that well, they are not even interested in how many calls did Johnny make, or why isn't Sarah returning my email at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon? It's just, they don't have that problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's the whole, I always talk about that, the sales army of one. The individual contributor right now, like you said, for $30 a month or $100 a month, can get all the databases and all the CRM services that large companies have by themselves. They don't need that. But what they do need is that structure and the plan. I watched another interview of yours, which was really good. And you said something about that actually, I'll put it here. The plan is useless, and you could go from there.
Yeah, that's a quote directly from Dwight Eisenhower, and the context of that is battle, and I think that I don't want to try to too much. It's a stretch to say that planning a sales year and going to war, they're nowhere near the same. But there's a lot of parallels that we can draw. When you can have the greatest plan for D-Day, but when the bullets fly, you can throw the plan out the window. And that's the essence of what General Eisenhower was saying. He said, the plan, it's gone as soon as the first shot's fired. But the exercise of planning is indispensable because it forces the leader to think about contingencies, to think about all the ways in which adversity will strike. And the thing about a selling year is that it's not a matter of if you're going to have hard times, it's a matter of when. Adversity is going to rear its ugly head. It's just a matter of when. And so chance, success, hitting your target is going to favor the leader that has done the work of planning and preparing for those adverse situations that are going to happen.
Yes, and those adverse situations. So even on a sales call, an objection is an adverse situation. one that you can prepare for. And when you actually do prepare for them and you know what you're going to say when they say that, and you know how to follow through, man, you actually kind of look forward to it. It makes sales fun with that entrepreneurial attitude.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so what a lot of the things that, like, I think an objection is, well, yes, it's an adversity. It's an expected adversity. Depending on the sales team, it's going to happen anywhere between, if you got a great close rate, 25% of the time. If you've got a lower conversion rate, well, then 70% of the time you're hearing objections. And so what I try to condition the managers and the leaders that I work with is to say, what are the unexpected adversities, right? We know objections are going to happen, but what about when your top rep, who's set to make $500,000 this year, comes and says, I'm going to go take a job making half that. And you're like, how in the world? Sally had golden handcuffs and she's leaving. I never even saw this coming. That's the unexpected adversity that they don't anticipate. Or, things like, nowadays you have to deal with very little notice. So-and-so can't even come to work for the next 5 days because they're on quarantine. Or we had this big meeting and there's 2,500 flights that have been canceled. We can't even get there. Like, we live in a time now where adversity comes really quickly. And so I'm trying to help them rethink, well, how do you prepare for those adverse situations? And how do you mitigate, to the extent that you can, the chances that your people are going to be forced with challenges that they haven't seen before, or that you're going to be faced with people challenges that you really haven't had to deal with. And a lot of leaders are dealing with that right now because people are just quitting.
Really? So employee retention is a challenge right now?
I think employee retention is a challenge. And the other challenge, it's a two-sided marketplace. Getting folks to come to work and take your sales job is also a challenge that a lot of leaders are facing because there are so many great sales jobs that they can name the price. And so I can't remember a time in the past 10, 15 years where we are having to pay fresh out of college, first-time sellers, no experience, the amount of money that they're commanding, because there's just so much capacity and there's so much need for just the activity that we're throwing crazy amounts of money at it.
And signing bonuses. I've heard that with crazy now. And the size companies that you're working with, what's generally this? Like you said, $100 million. So
in revenue, yeah.
What types of companies? Manufacturing, IT.
The majority of my work is in healthcare. So for the work that I do, it's a healthcare service, whether it be software as a service or actual clinical service, or they have a proprietary piece of technology that they're selling into that. So I'm on the board of a healthcare staffing company. We've created one of the largest crowdsourced databases of doctors and nurses in the world, and we're addressing the nurse shortage in the U.S. I've got another company that has a piece of technology for the primary care space, and I work with a large distribution of medical marijuana company. So they produce the packaging for cannabis in multiple states, mostly on the western part of the U.S. because that's where cannabis distribution is really booming. But I work with them. They've got big teams. They've got, on the small side, 15, 20 sellers. On the large side, they've got 100 reps across the country doing a lot of different things.
And so what does it look like to work with you? There's a lot of people that, that want to get into the consulting field like you're in, and get a bunch of clients. The challenge is, how do you, as a consultant working with these companies, manage your time? And what does it look like to work with you? Are you on site, or is it a weekly call, or what?
Most of my work, that's a great question. It forces me to kind of think about if I had to put it in a sentence. Most of my work is like this. It's virtual because my clients, which is the sales leader and then their boss, the CEO or the equity fund, they are really busy. If you're listening to this and you're a seller, that you got to understand that I live in your world too. They don't want me in their office. They don't have that's another meeting that they have to do. It's another commitment that they've got to adjust their travel schedule for, try to fit me in. So it's like this. It's like I got to meet them where they are. So a lot of my work is just asynchronous and really quick, short notice. Hey, let's jump on a call. I got a lot of commitments that are scheduled. Typically in an engagement, I do one-on-ones with the leader. So that would be the person that hired me, one-on-one with the CEO, a one-on-one with the VP, and then some one-on-ones with that mid-level management. So there's anywhere between minimum 2, on the high end, there's about 7 one-on-ones that I'll do each month. And those are agenda-driven meetings. We all have a quarterly intensive meeting that's typically 3 to 6 hours long. And then we do a monthly sales and marketing. It's almost like I'm trying to prepare them for their board meeting. So I get the sales and marketing team together to present to me what happened in the past month, what the company can expect in the next month, in a very concise way that is really true. Again, trying to prepare them for what are the questions the board's going to ask. What did you not talk about that you should have talked about? What happened that's going to be really ugly that we need to think about the narrative and how we present this, and get the CEO involved to let them shape the narrative for the board. So we have one-on-ones, have a monthly sales and marketing meeting, then we have a quarterly intensive meeting. It follows very closely the EOS and the traction model of rocks and 90 days in moving the business forward.
Did you go through that model?
Yes, I've been trained on traction. I use it in my own business, and most of my clients are either on it or very quickly adopted.
Yes, and for those of you who don't know what it is, just check it out. By the way, Nigel, you don't know this, but Chris Stone is the world's best producer. And as I talk like this, he's always looking up all stuff, traction, and going to get it up there anytime now. But that's it, the way to think on your feet. So how do you do that? Listen, some of what sales is, there's a lot of training. There's really desire to want to be a good salesperson and a good sales leader and a good coach. And that takes you along the way. But some people are kind of more naturally bent to it, just like some people are more naturally athletic than others. Do you ever get into a situation where you're like, dude, this just isn't for you?
Yeah, all the time. Like I see sellers all the time that I tell them, I think you're going to be short for this. And because here's what I think. There are all these different sales methodologies, right? There's the BANT, there's spin selling, there's medic. I don't give a rip about any of those. They're all fine and dandy. Here's what it comes down to. If you want to be good at selling, if you want to be good at business, you have to understand this one truth. Any motivation that you have for the customer to buy is never going to be as strong as a motivation that already exists within them. And so all of those frameworks really are just about, why do they want to do it? And the best sellers are really good at saying, customer, tell me why you would do this. And they come at it from different angles to try to understand what is motivating them. And they just run with that. And so to your point, folks that can't do that, they can be really crafty or manipulative. I've seen really, really crafty, psychologically skewed folks that their numbers are great, but I'm telling them, this ain't for you, because you don't understand, like the basics of this is you have to align what we're doing with why the customer would do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so what if, because I think that you are correct. The nature of the employer-employee relationship is changed. For years, I used to give presentations and about helping job seekers, and I'd say, guys, listen, you don't want a job, you want money. I go, if you had the choice between a job or money, which one would you take? And I had to kind of talk them into it, because there was, there's the work ethic ideal, go up, work hard, and you give value by hard work and all that stuff. Well, because of this, the past 2 years, people are like, screw it, I don't need to work, I just want money. I figured out how I can make money at home, and I don't need to do that work model anymore. And there's a shift there. There's a little more independence streak. So the loyalty to the company, in my opinion, has been severely, damaged. And somebody has to change. A, are you seeing that? And B, if you are, what are you doing to to make the companies better so they can attract those people?
Yes, I'm seeing it. It's pervasive. And the solution is, and anybody that has been on an entrepreneurial journey like you and Chris have been, you know this to be undeniable. It's an unmutable law. Doing work you love runs its course if you're not doing it with people you care about. And so all these sellers are leaving to go do their own gig or their freelance work. They found this side hustle that now it can replace their income because they don't want a job. They just want money, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
But then they find that, man, this is really lonely. And so the companies that are winning have really leaned into this notion of how do we create an environment where they know we care about them, and we create space for our people to be raw, to be real, and we create a team that loves working together. When you can do that, when you create a space where they're doing work they love with the people they love, you don't have a retention problem anymore.
That's exactly right. And then you have a company. I have to introduce you with these guys at Interaction. We had another gal, a startup company or a IT company that does employee retention like nobody else, all AI based, and it's dynamite. You got to hook up with these people. But the idea is that community that you're trying to build now with people all out in all their own little places, their remote things. So how do you create that camaraderie?
You have to want it. I mean, you have to generally and genuinely say, you have to generally by saying, I want this. I'm going to put it out here. This is what I care about. This is what I value. I will be an authentic leader. If you're going to work with me, we're going to do life together. Okay. And then, so here's this, and this is how you build it. I talk about this in Revenue Harvest, the 3 C's of hiring: character, chemistry, and competency. And where most leaders get it wrong is they start with competency. They say this person is competent. They've done the job. They've got all the career capital. They've got the track record. Why wouldn't I hire them? And then 6 months later, it doesn't work out. And we're all scratching our head why Johnny, the quota buster, is leaving, or we're having to put him on a PIP and it's not working out. It's because the leader, the person that has to work with Johnny every day, doesn't have chemistry with them. If you don't really want to understand, like, hey, what did you eat? Did you work out this morning? What are you into? How are things going on with your wife? What are you into outside of work? Oh, you like running marathons. I like to run. We have that in common. If you don't have chemistry, you won't spend time with them. You will find yourself being drawn to the other folks on the team that you have chemistry with. And typically chemistry is created by character. And character doesn't mean, it's not about like we both have the same religious views. It's about, we have these at our core guiding truths or principles that you and I can look each other eyeball to eyeball and say we both believe these to be true. Okay, so we have character values that are shared that create chemistry, and then the competency just happens. I'll take character and chemistry over competency all day of the week. In fact, I was on the phone this morning with a sales rep that worked for me in 2014. And I was asking him what he was doing to mix up his workouts because we still have that kind of chemistry. We haven't worked together in almost 10 years and we got chemistry. I mean, that's the secret sauce: character, chemistry, and then competency takes care of itself.
Yeah, you talked about all of these people that are fresh out of college and getting these great signing bonuses and great jobs. What about the managers? Are they being elevated too quickly and are not really learning on how to have that type of chemistry with the people that they're hiring? And what are some of those issues that, I know a lot of these companies you work with maybe have very specific goals and specific market share, but you probably are seeing some things that are inherent across these companies that are happening more often than not. Does it start there with the manager and how they can help to develop that chemistry?
It starts with the manager. Where I see this becoming really problematic is for teams that, and this is usually a SaaS company that has an SDR team. So the way they built and the CEO will tell you it doesn't exist, but perception is the reality. The perception in those sales organizations is that the SDR role is a junior role, okay, and that you grow into this account executive or you grow into some other kind of more mature role. So the SDR function, that top of the funnel quota, where it all starts, that role is very transient. And so because that role is transient, no one wants to lead in that role. Like, who really wants to go be an SDR manager? And so what I have to help them understand is that you truly have to treat that top of the funnel division as equals to account executives, as equals to customer success, because that's where you're building out your bench strength for the rest of the organization. And so if you can't get a manager in that role that sees this as not just a holding pattern or a layover before that next role, if you don't comp it and you don't treat that SDR manager role as a really desirable role, you're going to have a lot of cultural problems in your organization.
Yeah, and that's because there are companies like Salesforce, for example. I mean, the account reps, the real salespeople that go, I mean, they earned, they're basically order takers earning $500,000 a year, just getting started. They're giving up more than they're getting in terms of leads, and those leads are all coming from those SDRs on the front end. But there's no room for them to move. But that's absolutely right. How if your culture is right and you have like a family environment that's attractive there, you constantly want to be hiring on the bottom side of this thing and move people through the organization.
Yeah. And so I think one of the tools, the real tactical tool that a sales leader, if you're listening to this, you're a frontline manager, or if you're a rep and you've got a manager, here's a little nugget you can take back to your manager. I think everyone needs to be on a 1-year professional development plan. And your job as the manager, if you're trying to show them that you care, we need to have goals. I call them the 5 F's. Okay. I need to work with you on goals around your finances. That's the first F. What do you want to earn? What are you doing with your money? How can I take the money you're making here and create and help you put it into some asset that's going to help create wealth for you, whether it's just buying your first home or it's your second home or buying a piece of the stock market? We got to have finance goals. Okay. We have to have faith goals. What do you believe in? That doesn't mean you have to be religious, but what do you believe in? What do you want? This life has to be bigger than getting up, coming to work every day. We have to have family goals. You got a girlfriend, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to have a better relationship with your brother. How can I help you? Maybe it's giving you time off to go work on that relationship, because if you have drama at home, guess what? You bring it to work. So we got to have family goals. We got to have fitness goals. Mind, body, brain. If you have a problem with fitness, if you're not eating the right things, if you're drinking out of work too much, if you're not moving your body, you can't be great at work. So don't tell me that this is out of bounds for me as a sales leader to talk. You have to be fit to do this job. Fitness also includes your brain. What are you reading? What are you putting into it? Okay. And then faculty, that's work. So the last one is work. What are we doing in your career trajectory and in your path at work to help you accomplish your career goals?
That is money right there.
Can we add another F to it, Nigel? Is that possible?
Sometimes I do. I put fun.
That was it. That was my last F. There you go.
What are you doing for fun?
That's it.
Okay. I put flipper. Just because it's another
creates
F.
chemistry.
Yeah,
You talk about fun, that creates chemistry.
Well,
you want to show people you care? Talk about these F's with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. And so when you do this and your company grows, it turns out, who is supposed to be doing this, by the way? Is managers doing it, or are you encouraging everybody to talk with each other about all these things? Because you're basically taking on a human resource role there. You're finding their objectives and then you're coaching to it.
Yes. If I'm a frontline manager, I've got 10 direct reports. It's my job to have 10 of these conversations with my reps. I'm having it once, no longer than once a quarter, but I think you can do it every month. You can sit down and say, okay, catch me up. we talked about this month, you were going to do this with your family. You were going to save $5,000 and put it into your Roth IRA. You were going to increase your 401k contributions. Did you do it? Like having these conversations every month. And then if you're the sales leader, well, then now you've got 3 frontline sales managers, a rev ops person, and a customer. You're doing these conversations, and you keep it in a living, breathing document that you share with them. And it's one of your one-on-ones needs to just be about these. It needs to not be about what were the KPIs and forget the metrics. Who are you and how are you doing?
Yeah, and this will forestall all those surprises that you talked about before about somebody leaving. Why are you leaving? You're making more money than anybody else, and you didn't know that they wanted to own a duck farm, and they never told you about this, and it just came available.
I've had some big surprises early in my career where it's like, wait a minute, my top producer is going to go to drug and alcohol treatment for 90 days, and I had no idea that this person even had a drinking problem. Whoa, buddy, that you talk about a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So if you practice what I'm preaching, which is this was for me was like, how can you say you care about your people and you didn't even know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is fun. I mean, this is good. I'm actually like jazzed up by thinking about this because you're really truly helping individuals. But ultimately, you're getting paid, Mr. Manager, Mr. Sales Leader, to make sure that everybody else is doing this. How do you get the buy-in from the CEO to go this route?
The numbers. There's fidelity to this. Okay, it's the same reason that every sports team has clinical psychologists on staff. I don't know if you guys have his name. He just passed away, Trevor Moawad. He recently passed away during this football season, but he was on staff with the Seattle Seahawks. He wrote a book called It Takes What It Takes. And he's just a mental conditioning coach. And there are others that are out there. Michael Gervais is another psychologist that works with top performers, elite athletes, and he has a whole podcast called Finding Mastery. But the point in your question is that go look at top performing teams. They are investing in clinical psychology. They are investing in mind, body, the whole ecosystem. And you know why they're investing in it? Because they see the return. They see the numbers going up. They see player or executive productivity going up. And so I tell, if you're listening to this and you're a CEO and say, I don't buy into this, your numbers will get better. I promise you.
Okay, it's just numbers. But what happens is your company gets better. And as your company gets better, everything works well. It's easier to recruit. It's easier to attract. It's easier to retain. It's easier to do better numbers. It's the whole thing.
There is not a company that I work with that does this, that does not track revenue per seller and see it going up. Okay, so if I don't have to pay a recruiter to fill this open position, I just save 15 to 30 grand. If I don't, we all see the stats on what it costs to replace someone. Okay, so there's all that. What's worse is having someone who's living with it and going through the motions, and they're just hitting quota. That's the scary part. Are those that are 85 to 100% the plan year over year. They're not getting any better. The money that we are losing because they don't get promoted out to a new role to go create more value, or because they're not fired up and fully into the role, we're losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue because they're just going through the motions.
Yeah, and if once you're so invested in them, man, I really got to hook you up with the interaction. This is crazy. Once you're so invested in them, you know what their objectives are and their goals, and you know when they're ready to move up. You know what ahead of the time that you'll save them from leaving because you'll give them. Sometimes it might not be money; it just might be more responsibility, or it might be they wanted to move into just a different, new, challenging role.
That's right. And sometimes it's they need to leave. They need to go on and do something else. Like they need to leave the company. And that's I don't think we celebrate that enough when it's done the right way, when someone's been there 5 to 7 years and they get to go have your job with another company. What a win that is.
Right. That's excellent. And those are the people that don't leave, in the sales world, people generally don't give 2 weeks notice. They try to give 2 weeks, but they're not working the whole time anyhow. And they've already got another job and all that stuff. But in that case, when they're leaving, they're comfortable enough to come and tell you, hey, I'm looking at this other thing, and you encourage them to do it, you get every last bit out of them, and they'll recruit for you too.
Well, and that's a great segue to one of my favorite interview questions in a leadership role, Deej, is I sit down with the VP and I look at him and I say, all right, you get this job tomorrow. Who's coming with you? And if they can't very quickly list 5 to 7 sellers or frontline managers that are going to quit their job to come work with them just because of, without any knowledge of the opportunity, the product market fit, they're coming to work for you. You're not the guy or gal I'm looking for. And I don't want you to stutter. I want you to be very quickly say, Jillian, Jamie, these folks they're coming. You hire me tomorrow. We're ready to roll.
That's good. I don't want to. Why'd you go with the J names? Isn't that funny? How people
Those are
just
actually real people. Those are actually real people. Yeah.
Yeah. Jillian, is Jillian with a G or a J?
With a J. If I called Jillian, Jamie, Amy, Chad, Joey, if I called them today and said, hey, I'm going to get back in the game and I'm going to go build another sales team for this healthcare company, and I want you to be a sales manager, 100% they'd drop it and come do it.
See, Dan, not everybody makes up names while they're on these podcasts. Like these are actual people.
I know. Actually, Nigel, that actually is about the best thing. I learned something right there. If you come along, who can you bring with you? Who's coming with you? That is very strong. That talks about one's character. I tell people the definition of a leader is to have people that will follow you. And, they could either come through attraction or at the point of a gun. And if it comes at the point of a gun, you're really not a leader.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So excellent. So now, how do you are you still looking for new business? Or is your capacity, or if you reach capacity?
Man, I have a lot of commitments already throughout the course of the year. So very fortunate in that regard. Yeah. The easiest and probably the most effective way to figure out very quickly if I can be helpful to your sales team is I have a workshop, and it's a 1-day intensive. It culminates with a 1-day workshop. I do anywhere between 12 and 20 hours of diligence and prep with you, the CEO, your sales leader, your marketing team. I'm going to audit all of your processes. I'm going to speak to your salespeople. I'm going to speak to some of your customers. And we're going to culminate in this 1-day workshop where I'm going to present to you a plan to double your sales. And then I'm going to stay with you through a series of calls over 90 days to help you tweak that plan, because we know plans are garbage, but the planning exercise is what's really helpful. And it's going to teach you how to build a machine year in and year out that hits its target.
That is just so exciting, but it's something, devil's advocate here, something that I've heard 1,000 times. Everybody says we're going to build you a process, and you follow the process and you have predictable results. Why is it going to work this time?
It's going to work this time because you're going to learn how to execute. Okay. So much of everything that I talk about, you can go read it in a book. You can read it in my book, and trust me, everything I wrote in my book, I read in one of these books back here. Okay. The difference in what I do better than most folks is I help you know how to hold yourself accountable and how to execute, how to hold your team accountable, how to ask the right questions, how to build in the cadence so that you know when to intervene. A lot of consultants want to give you the playbook, and it's all theoretical. But yes, it all comes down to, and this is what my friend Rory Vaden says this: nobody pays for insight anymore. They pay for execution.
Yes.
And so I show you how to execute. And if you're selling insight, I mean, $19 at Amazon, you can go get it. It's execution.
That's right. You give your insight away. That's what you're doing right now, Nigel. You're giving your insight away. So I could say, hey, I want you to teach me how to execute with that. Very cool. So the companies that you're working with are doing well now?
I had, I've got one company I'm really excited about, Affirm Health. We grew 533% since the start of the pandemic, and really really loving the things that they're doing with that business. And I work very closely with a private equity fund out of Chicago called Shore Capital, and doing some really exciting projects with some of their healthcare and food and beverage platforms, and a lot of really exciting things to look forward to in 22.
Good. So this is a good year for you. How's family doing? You got
family. Yeah, 2 kids. Foster's in kindergarten, and yeah, life is great. I was telling one of the guys I coached this morning, we had too much Christmas. We had 10 straight days of Christmas, and my wife and I are like, we're not doing that next year. We got to figure this out. 10 days of that, it's just not going to work. So I'm coming off a real Christmas hangover and ready to get to work.
That's funny because I'm like the total opposite. We still haven't done Christmas yet. My wife got the China virus on Christmas Eve, and then I followed up a few days later, and so none of the family wanted to come over. So we still got stuff under the tree.
Oh, man.
We're all set. But that's awesome. So a kindergartner, and how old is your daughter?
She's 4.
Okay, so she's not even getting started. You're right into it. And how long have you been married?
I've been married for 13 years.
Really? Still getting along?
March of 13 years. She puts up with me. I don't know why, but she does.
Well, that's great. Well, my dad told me a few things of advice that he told me. Not a lot, but just a few. But one of them was this. He says he had a little French Jewish accent, and so that's how I was saying. He said, "Danny, in this country, you could make 1,000 business mistakes." He says, "America will always give you another chance. But Danny, you make 1 or 2 bad personal mistakes, you pay for it for the rest of your life." He says, "Marry the right woman." And you seem to have done that.
Yeah, but people are going to ask her, did she marry the right man? So,
well, that's her. If she gets to choose that. Well, terrific. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on here today. This has been terrific. You are. I think I've grown from hearing you. What do you think, Chris Stone?
A few inches. Yeah. Yeah. No, it was great. Fantastic. I think you've given a lot, today on the show. And I mean, for those of you who have been watching, there's a ton of comments out there. Go to nigelgreen.co/workshop for the Double Your Sales workshop. And of course, the revenueharvest.com. We've got a book up there. And I love the whole chemistry part of the conversation, Nigel. I mean, that is like, it's, I don't know if we can use the word a lost art, right? But it really is the core, I think, of what of what you're doing, and that's my takeaway for sure.
Yeah, especially in the sales world. We used to tell people, I had a staffing company once, and we used to tell people, listen, hire for will and train for skill. But you want them to make sure that they were in there. But the companies could never get around the resume.
Yeah, I don't even look at resumes anymore. I mean, because they're just like, the best salespeople aren't even looking for a job. So why they're not going to send me a resume, because they're busy being successful at their company. So what? If you're going to hire recruiters and they're going to send you, the person I want is going to interview me to try to understand why they're going to leave this job. So,
yes. Yeah. And you got to sell it to the managers. You're dead on spot. Stick around for a couple of seconds after we get done there. I want to thank you for coming. Chris Stone, once again, best producer in the world. Way to come through. He's, these things can be done so poorly, and it's one of the things. There's just small little things that you can do to make your success so much better in every respect in sales. But when you're producing something like this, it's the little things that count. Nobody does the little things better than you, Chris Stone. Can't tell you, you are as good as they get. This is going to be a great year for us. And all you out there, just remember, every day is a new day to start. It's New Year's every day. If you think about it, you wake up 365 days from today, it's a new year. So start off fresh every day. What happened yesterday is gone. I've learned from it. I will not let it rob me from today. You do that, and your sales life is going to kill. You're the best. I'm the Deej. Thanks again, Nigel. Go get them today.